Hi BookTube, my name is Sarah and welcome to the Bookish Knitter. Today I am coming to you with the first in what is going to potentially be a very long series of videos. So I was inspired by a number of people, but most recently Lindsay over at Lindsay's Little Library, and I will leave link below to her most recent one of these videos on her channel so you guys can go and check it out. So essentially what this is these videos are going to show you all the books that I have on my Kindle, or all the books that I've bought for Kindle or gotten for free, or however you want to say it. So I have a lot of Kindle books, an obscene amount. That's what I'm saying, is that this series of videos could potentially go on for years. I have currently, as of filming this at the end of August 2021, I have 1,500 titles in my Kindle library. So that's a thing. So essentially, like I said, Lindsay's not the only one who has done this. I've been inspired by a lot of people, but like I said, most recently Lindsay, because she's been doing these videos as well. And I really love them because it's like a digital bookshelf tour. And I just thought it would be a lot of fun to kind of go through the titles that I have on my Kindle. Have I read them? If I've read them, when did I read them? So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm doing 20 at a time. So all the books will be listed below. I'm not going to get into you know, what these books are about. If I remember, then I will. But if I don't, I'm sorry, I will leave them all listed below as I said. So you guys can go ahead and check them out for yourself if any of the covers look great, because of course I'm going to pop the covers up here for you guys. And then as kind of like a little extra something different that I'm not sure I've seen anyone else really do, is what I am going to do is all the books that I haven't read. So for this very first video, there's 2 books I haven't read out of these 20, but 2 of them are books that I definitely want to reread. So what I did was I wrote those 4 books down on pieces of paper and I put them in this little jar. So when I'm done going through all the books, I'm going to pull a book out of here, and that book will be added to my TBR in September. So as I continue to do these videos, I'm thinking I might do one of these every other week or something like that. So as I do these, like in September, when I do the videos in September, the books that I pull will go on my October TBR. So it will always be the next month, if that makes any kind of sense. So I'm very, very excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and just, I know everybody loves a good bookshelf tour, and this is kind of a really fun way of doing it, in my opinion. So I hope that you guys enjoy this. So I started buying books on my Kindle way back in mid-2015. So it's been, what, 6 years now that I've been buying Kindle books. So I've amassed a lot of them. You know, a lot of them, it was like, oh, they were for free or 99 cents. You guys know, I generally do not pay full price for my ebooks, because I think that some prices of ebooks can be very obscene in price. Like $13 or $14 for a brand new ebook is a little hard to swallow, in my opinion. Regardless, let's get into the 20 books. So the very first book, the oldest book on my Kindle TBR, and if anyone's curious as to how I found this out, is what I did was I actually went on Amazon, like on their website on my laptop, not on my phone or anything like that. I haven't figured out a way to do, I think you can, but it might be a little bit more difficult. I guess, especially when you've got a list the size of mine, essentially. So what I did was I went into, there's an area called Content and Devices, and then it gives you a list of all of your Kindle books, and you can sort them. You can sort them by title, by author, and I sorted oldest to newest, and that's how I found these out. So the very first book, the oldest book, the first one I bought for my Kindle, and not necessarily this is my oasis, but I mean, I've had different Kindle devices for years, was Sweet on You by Darlene Panzera. This is book number 1 in the Cupcake Diary series. This I read back in 2017 and I ended up giving it 3 stars. This was a contemporary romance about a group of friends, I think, who run a bakery, clearly. And all of the covers are these absolutely gorgeously adorable covers, really bright colored, and they have like a cupcake on them. And I'm pretty sure I have a couple more that I purchased. I don't know where they're going to fall in amongst these videos. They may have even been books that I bought from the Harlequin website, because they were originally published by Avon, and Avon, you used to be able to buy Avon ebooks on the Harlequin website. So that's the first one. The second one is All I Want for Christmas is a Cowboy, and this is by Emma Kane, Jennifer Ryan, and Katie Lane. I read this book back in 2018, and I gave it 3 stars as well. It is a contemporary romance Christmas cowboy anthology. Need I say more? It's right up my street, essentially. The next one that I have is The Closer You Come by Gena Showalter. This is book number 1 in the original Heartbreakers series. I read this book in 2018 and gave it 4.5 stars. I don't remember the premise of this one as much, but I believe the series is about a family, like siblings or cousins or something like that. And these are, of course, contemporary. I know a lot of people know Gena Showalter for her more paranormal type work, but she does write contemporary, and these are good, you guys. Like, I don't necessarily remember the exact plot line, but clearly I really liked this one when I read it. So yeah, check that one out. The next one is also part of the original Heartbreaker series, and that is The One You Want by Gena Showalter. And this is book 0.5 in the series, so this is the prequel novella. This one, I think I remember, it's about a woman who was scorned. It might be an enemies to lovers scenario if I'm remembering correctly. Came out, I read it in 2018, and I gave it a 4-star rating. Novellas are always harder for me to rate because as much as I love them, I don't get enough story. I want more story, essentially. The next one is called Taking Heart by Wilette Youkey, and I believe the author's actual name is June Gray, and it says on the cover, June Gray writing as Wilette. You know what I mean? I read this book back in 2016, and I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. It's not a terribly long book. For some reason, I remember it being a lot longer than it was, and when I looked it up on Amazon again, it was like under 200 pages. But the main thing about this one is about the main character, the female lead, has had a heart transplant. I remember that. And it's about her falling in love. That's all I can remember about it, but I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. Next up, we have Carolina Home by Virginia Kantra. This is book 1 in the Dare Island series. I read this in 2017 and I gave it 3 stars. This is another great small town contemporary romance. It takes place off the coast of Carolina in a small town, I believe, called Dare Island, essentially. And it's kind of about the different inhabitants. And I believe in this one, our main character is a school teacher, but it's a very small island. And my biggest memory of this book is the fact that she rode her bicycle everywhere. I know, it's a weird thing to remember, but I think she falls for the local, I think the male lead, his son or his nephew or one of something like that is a student in her class. That's what I'm thinking that one was about. Again, 3 stars, didn't hate it, didn't love it. It was a perfectly acceptable story, and I do have more of these to read, and I'm looking forward to that. Next up, we have The Way You Look Tonight by Bella Andre. This is book 2 in the Seattle Sullivan series. I read this one back in 2019 and I gave it 3 stars. Bella Andre has written a number of these Sullivan books. They're like Seattle and then in another location and all over the place. This one I just happened to pick up. You know, you guys know me. I don't necessarily read series in order all of the time. But this one I liked. Again, 3 stars, perfectly average. These ones, from what I remember, do get a bit hot and spicy. So do keep that in mind, but still a lot of fun. The next one is one of the ones that ended up in the jar, and that is Nowhere But Here by Katie McGarry. This is book 1 in the Thunder Road series. I did read this one back in 2016 and gave it 5 stars. I loved this series. This is a trilogy, a YA trilogy, about a motorcycle gang. That's all I'm going to say. It was really good. I really, really liked it. I know the first and second books I loved. I can't remember. I think the third one, I may have given 5 stars to all 3, if not 4.5 stars. I can't remember. But I do want to do a reread of the series because, again, I haven't read them since 2016. It's like 5 years ago. And I'd really love to give them a reread. So that one is now in the jar. The next one on the list is It's in His Kiss by Jill Shalvis. This is book 10 in the Lucky Harbor series. This is one of her first contemporary romance series that she did. I think there may have been 12 books in total in this series, and they all take place in a small town called Lucky Harbor. And, you know, it's an atypical small town contemporary romance series. I gave this one, I read it in 2018 and I gave it 4 stars. Jill Shalvis is a fan favorite. She's a big favorite of mine. I love her work, and yeah, I enjoyed that one. Next up, we have Flirting with Disaster by Victoria Dahl. This is book 2 in the Jackson Girls Night Out series. I read it in 2019 and I gave it 3.5 stars. This series is about a group of friends who are party girls, essentially, and that's what it's about. So this one gets very hot and spicy. I remember that much of it. Victoria Dahl writes on the spicier side of contemporary romance, and I liked it. I mean, I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up is another one that is in the jar. It's one I have not gotten to yet, and it's KCPD Protector, so Kansas City Police Department Protector by Julie Miller, book 23 in the Precinct series. So again, I don't think this is the kind of series you need to read in any kind of order. I'm pretty sure these are all just books that take place and have policemen or officers as our main characters. This one I have not read yet. It is a Harlequin intrigue, if I'm remembering correctly. It's in the jar. Let's see if we pull it out to read in September. Next up, we have Safe by the Marshal's Side by Shirlee McCoy. This is book 1 in the Witness Protection Program series. I read it in 2017 and I gave it 3 stars. I remember this one. This is a love-inspired suspense novel, and it's about essentially he's a marshal and she is in the Witness Protection Program, and he's trying to keep her and her little girl safe. It was okay. It was good. I mean, it was 3 stars. 3 stars is average. I liked it. I didn't love it. Next up, we have The Colton Bride by Carla Cassidy. This is book 4 in the Coltons of Wyoming series. I read this in 2018. I gave it 3.5 stars. Another intrigue novel. And I do love Carla Cassidy's intrigue novels. They are fantastic. I don't remember exactly the plot of this one. It's 4th in a series. I'm pretty sure I read it completely out of order from the rest of the books. I probably haven't read any of the other books in this series. Chances are, knowing me. But Carla Cassidy, she's always a winner for me. So if you're ever looking to read or get into the intrigue novels, Carla Cassidy is a great place to start. Next up, we have Saints Gate by Carla Neggers. This is book number 1 in the Sharp and Donovan series. I read this in 2017. I gave it 3 stars. This is a romantic suspense, and all of the books in the Sharp and Donovan series follow the same 2 characters, Sharp and Donovan. And one, I believe, is FBI, and I can't remember what the other person is, but they're essentially solving cases. But Carla Neggers not only does she do great contemporary, because she does write some great contemporary books, she writes great romantic suspense. And these are a lot of fun. I do recommend them. And yeah, this one was enjoyable. Next up, for something completely different from anything else that I've talked about, I had forgotten that I A, owned this book, and B, read this book. But when I remembered, I was like, oh yeah, it was so much fun. So this book is called What If? Serious Scientific Answers to Absurd Hypothetical Questions by Randall Munroe. I read this in 2017. I gave it 4 stars. And this one is just really fun. It was a very, very quick read. So if you think about like a big, hardcover book, right? Like, big hardcover book. Each page literally is a question. Like, what would happen if dinosaurs came back to life today? And then he gives a very scientific answer to a rather absurd question. This would be a great book for kids, to be completely honest. If you have little ones at home who are very science-minded, who, are always asking why, I could absolutely see them loving this one. It was really, really cute. It was a lot of fun. It was a delight. I really enjoyed it. I do like nonfiction every now and then. And then the next one is another one that is now in the jar. And we have 1 in a Million by Jill Shalvis. This is book 12 in the Lucky Harbor series. So I've only read, I think, the first 3 books. Then I read book 10. Now I've got book 12. I'm reading this series completely out of order. And it's fine. It's fine. It's not a problem. So if this one comes up, I'm not too concerned that I haven't read anything before it, because I'm going to enjoy this one for what it is. So I have not read this one. No idea what it's about. Here we are. The next one is the last book that is in the jar, and that is a reread. And this is Reconstructing Amelia by Kimberly McCreight. I read this one in 2016, and I gave it 4.5 stars originally. So again, it's been 5 years since I've read it. I really want to reread it. This one got back on my radar when me, Bree, and Chloe were talking about the Book Sisters Book Club, which we host. And we were trying to decide books 1 month or something like that. And I suggested this one. And the girls are like, but you've read it. I'm like, but I want to reread it. It's a psychological thriller. I mean, I kind of remember how it ends. Kind of. I can't remember the reason why. Like, I can't remember the why in this book. So I'm intrigued to reread it. And again, I have it on the Kindle. It's in the jar. Let's see if it comes up. And just a couple more here, you guys. The next one we have is Bad Romeo by Lisa Rayven. This is book 1 in the Star-Crossed series. I read this in 2017 and I gave it 3 stars. The second book in this series is the one that really stands out to me because I really didn't like the second book in this series. This series, it's a duology, a YA duology. It's essentially a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. Need I say more? What is that great meme that always goes around? Romeo and Juliet is not a love story. It's a teenage infatuation that results in the death of 6 people. Sincerely, everyone who read it. So yeah, this one was okay. But the one standout for me with this book, and I don't have them here, I wish I did, I'm sorry, I should have thought about that, is that this book actually won me a skein of yarn of all things. So quick backstory to this one. There's an indie yarn dyer. I don't know if she still dyes yarn. She is called, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on her. If I can remember the yarn dyer, I will post it below. But I used to follow her on Instagram and on Facebook and stuff like that. And she was running this contest for a whole year and the theme was books. So for the month of February, she asked people to submit book covers that they would like to see turned into a skein of yarn. So I submitted this one because really, let's be honest, that cover is smashing. It's fantastic. And she decided to use this cover to dye yarn. Again, don't know if it's still available. But because I suggested, I won a free skein and I actually ended up turning it into a pair of socks. Okay, so I looked for the socks. I'm not absolutely certain where they are. However, I know I did knit some of the end pieces. Like when I finished knitting the socks, I had yarn left. So I put some of them into my sock yarn blanket. So that is it right there. That's Bad Romeo. So you can kind of see, right? And then it went into a purple that's very similar to this. So yeah. So that's my claim to fame with that book. It's the only reason that book stands out to me at all is because I have a pair of socks that I have named. I name all the socks that I knit because we're friends. I spend like 2 months knitting a pair of socks. Those are my Bad Romeo socks. So if anything, I didn't love the book or the series, but it got me a great pair of socks. Last 2 books, you guys. So the next one is Last Resort by Jill Sanders. This is book 1 in the Grayton series, excuse me. I read this one originally in 2016. I gave it 3 stars. This is a series I was attempting to actually finish this year, and I DNF'd the series because I just didn't care for it. I don't know what else to say about this one. This had the potential to be great, but I think it was the characters that really fell flat. It's about, a group of siblings who were all foster siblings of each other, and how they all live in this like Surfside type community now, and things like that. That's the series. It was okay. Didn't love it. And the last book, also by Jill Sanders, is Serving Pride. This is the 5th book in the Pride series. I read it in 2017. I gave it 2.5 stars. Didn't love this one either. This is another small town contemporary romance series that takes place in Oregon. And again, I really don't know what too much to say about this one. These books are not terribly long. I think Jill Sanders, she's not a bad author. But I believe they're self-published, and again, that's no shot on anybody who's self-published. I just feel like as an author, she's trying to cram way too much into shorter stories. Like these stories all come in and around 200 pages. And yet you've got stuff like gang violence and, absentee parents and, it just seems like, and that could all be in one book. Like you get 3 or 4 big things kind of all crammed into one book. And it just doesn't work. It's like pick one and run with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, didn't absolutely love those. So let's pick the book that is going on my September TBR. So let's see. Reach in here. We pull out a little piece of paper. I'll let you guys see it first. Oh, yay! Oh, I'm so excited. Reconstructing Amelia by Kimberly McCreight. Oh, I can't wait. I have been wanting to do a reread of this one so badly. Unfortunately, as I have a Kindle edition, I also bought a physical edition of this book, but sadly, I loaned it to somebody and I never got it back. Word to the wise, people. I'm sure we all know this. don't lend out your books. She is my very best friend, and we've known each other since the 2nd grade. So I really can't get too mad, but still. I might have to go pay her a visit and peruse her bookshelves until I find it. But anyway, I will be rereading that one in September, so I'm very excited. Anyway, guys, that is all that I have for this video today. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Again, the list of all of the books will be posted below in case you want to go check any out for yourself. Thank you, Lindsay, for unintentionally inspiring me to do this. I really appreciate it. And I love her videos. If you are not subscribed to her channel, she is a delight. And yeah, until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.